Oops, I hear the door. Why?
Hey!
It's Paul Antonell. How you doing?
Hi. Hey, David.
Hey. Paul owns a tremendously incredible studio in Rhinebeck, and it's world-class recording studio called the Clubhouse, where who's recorded there?
Linda Ronstadt, Natalie Merchant, Parliament Funkadelic, Marshall Crenshaw, Fountains of Wayne.
A lot of movies.
A lot of movies,
Right.
TV soundtracks, classical. Hilary Hahn we did a record with. We got quite a few people that we could pull from. But,
Well, Paul's over here because I lent him. This is unscripted and believe me.
okay, yeah, let's talk about this.
Okay, go ahead.
This is a Pete Cornish compressor, and it's absolutely spectacular. It's beautifully made, it's absolutely dead quiet, and it's as good as any high-end rack mount compressor. I A-B'd it with LA2, a distressor, and 1176, which all have a lot of character.
Right.
This is beautiful. I have a very specific reason for using this pedal as opposed to a rack mount unit, as opposed to what Jimmy and I were talking about.
Right.
This would be used for recording
That's
bass.
Jimmy Weeder.
Yeah, Jim Weeder, who tried it, and he actually, I don't want to speak for him, but he actually really liked it. But one of the things that I really liked about this pedal was it has a blend, which is a mix between the compressed signal and the dry signal, which is very unique. You don't find that often. And it has a tremendous amount of gain and a tremendous amount of compression, so if you wanted to use it as an effect. But the reason why I like it for recording is I could take it right off the bass and go right into a DI box and compress the signal before the mic pre.
Yeah.
Which gives you a little bit more powerful sound. Well, you can get that post, but it's not the same.
Right.
So this is a beautiful box. Love it.
And Pete sent it to me. This was like one of the early ones.
Is it?
And well, meaning that he just came out with it, but he sent this one to me to check out, and I was I think it's amazing.
I have one thing that I wanted to ask about it. If I could have my druthers with it, and this is something that maybe you could bring up to him. But the only thing that I thought, it has a very musical release. Okay, with compressors, they grab the signal, they raise the signal up, and that's what a compressor does. And then the amount of that signal that when the compressor's done doing its thing, it releases. So for me, if I could vary the release time a little bit.
Right, because you're using it in studio.
It's
situation.
very musical, the release that he picked.
Right.
And
right.
I get what he did.
Right.
But when you hit a bass note or a guitar chord and you let it sustain, you could actually, you hear the compression release. So if you could vary that, that's what the rack mount guys have. They have an attack and release.
Right.
So that would be my only thing. But I really like the way it sounded musically. It's a the guy's a genius of musical box.
Yeah.
It's just to actually compare a pedal to a rack mount piece that costs probably twice or three times as much.
Right.
I mean, it was just like I was A-B'ing it in real time.
Right. Well, you know what I always say: if it's good enough for Paul McCartney,
or Gilmore.
Yeah.
If it's good enough for Gilmore, it's good enough for me. Yeah, that's. But that's a really good. I mean, that thing is really good. Just saying.
Good.
And I mean, I'm not the guitar player that you or Jimmy. I mean, I'm more of a guy that listens to tone and stuff like that. The tone is just beautiful on this thing. There's just nothing that gets affected unless you want it to be.
Right.
When you turn that compressor on it, the thing is just like, it really squeezes it.
Right.
And that's an effect that somebody would want to use, like if they were using a sustain pedal or a wah pedal or something, you know. But and the gain, there's so much gain on it. It's like,
I know that it took Pete several years before he got it right. And when I played it, it was like for me, and I don't use compressors that much.
Right, because they don't sound that good.
Right.
You would use.
But I would use this.
What everybody would use would be the Dynacomp one. That
Right.
was what everybody used because that had just one thing. It was a one-trick pony.
Right.
But this
adds a certain sound to any.
and it brings out the richness of the tone. Is
Right.
what this does.
Right.
So a little more in your face. But I wouldn't hesitate. For me, like that's on my wish list. I mean,
Right.
it's that good.
Really.
It's incredible to get one that sounds as good as a rack one.
Yeah,
that's
well,
that's what I'm talking
yeah.
about. This is a guy that did his homework, you know. So that's my take on it.
Well, see, unsolicited, and I do have a couple, but
You send me a message.
okay.
That's gonna be on my. That's gonna be on Paul's birthday present to myself. Well, you know, I want to talk to Tony Levin because he has a guitar compressor that this guy Ken McKim built for him, and Tony uses a compressor after his bass before DI box, and I turned Tony onto a DI box that he has like 300 of them that he uses.
Right.
That he's.
Well, maybe.
Well, I was just saying, if he comes over, what he normally do is come over and I'll say, hey, can we try this?
Right.
You know, and I turned him on to this Motown DI box that this guy got the schematics from the Motown ones,
Right.
the original early Motown. And I plugged it in and he said, where'd you get that? And I told him the whole story and he goes, give me the guy's phone number. And he called him up and, you know, bought one on the spot.
Right,
And I said,
right.
do you really need another DI box?
Right.
And he goes,
Well, if Tony wants to try it,
I have
you
300
can just grab
of them.
one.
Well, I know. But that's the kind of thing I'd like to try it because he has a tube compressor that this guy built and it's in a pedal form. And that would be my next thing is to try AB it with Tony's or play
Right.
or have Tony try this.
Right. Anytime.
Because he'd be like, he's where I got the idea from, using the compressor after the DI, I'm sorry, the bass compressor DI box.
I always put the compressor first.
Yeah, I haven't been.
You
I've
know?
been doing it all post.
No.
Because I have the racks,
Right,
I have all the
right.
stuff, but I never had one that was good
To
enough
me,
to
the
put.
compressor always goes first.
Right.
Look, everybody can find the little quirks, but there's the go-to thing, like compressor first, delay, and reverb last. You know what I mean?
Well, when you're doing big, complicated setups, like this was my concern about this was, you know, will this work very quickly? Because, you know, musicians, it's the path of least resistance.
Right, exactly.
And you want to just put your pedal board in, here's your in, here's your out. This is, you guys take it, do whatever you want with it. But there hasn't been one that's been good enough to actually record before DI because there's always been noise issues.
Right. Not with this.
Not with this.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And it sounded as good as, like, literally a distressor, which is a solid state version of a compressor.
I have that in Pro Tools. Yeah.
And it is world class compressor.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I have a hardware box. I don't have the plug-in. I have
Right.
a hardware box, and I was A/Bing it, switching in and out.
Well,
And that's and matching what I thought was the you know, a very small compression ratio, which you would do on a tracking day, just enough to grab the peaks, you know. But
Right.
I'm impressed.
Good.
Really impressed.
I'll tell Pete.
Well, I want one.
Okay. Well, I'll get you one.
I can't do it right now, but I want one.
You got it.